As I was doing my regular light check, I saw that my rear fog light is not working. I replaced the bulb, but that still didn't solve my problem. So I was thinking, was that socket corroded that badly that it isn't working? Well, let's see. This video is going to be all about what to do when your light bulb's socket is all corroded. So stay tuned. Let's start by removing the fog light housing. It has a clip under the bumper that you need to press. So after that you will need to take the bulb and socket assembly out of the housing by twisting it and pulling afterwards. Okay, now you can remove the bulb out of the socket and look for corroded parts. The next step would be to remove the socket from the cables, but it had a lot of mud on it, so I started by disassembling the socket itself with a screwdriver. By the way, you might have an easier job working on it if you push it in and pull it below the bumper, so you can access the socket much easier. So disassembling this socket is pretty straightforward. There are only 3 clips holding the top part to the base or whatever, and you will need to push down on those with a flathead screwdriver and pop them all out. So now I started to clear off the plug from all the mud because I wanted to remove the socket from the wiring. Now that this is off, we can take a look inside and see how badly is it corroded. Well, in my case it was pretty goddamn bad. So I had to use a file or piece of sanding paper to clean them off. But first I went ahead and used some contact cleaner on the plug, and in case your contacts aren't this bad, you can just clean them off with this spray. Now on to removing the contacts from inside the socket. Try to push on them from where you insert the plug, because they will come out fairly easily. Don't try to pull them from where you insert the bulb, because you might bend the contacts. So remember, these contacts are made out of copper, and copper bends relatively easily. Oh yeah, and the position of the contacts inside the socket is pretty obvious. Worst case, you can just take a photo of the assembly before you start taking it apart. Now onto the sanding part. I used 240 grit sandpaper and sanded off all the way almost every part that I could reach with the sandpaper. Use whatever necessary to clean the contacts off as well as you can. After you manage to clean the contacts off, I would suggest to spray them again with this contact cleaner, because from what I remember, it should protect the metal surfaces from corrosion, and that's exactly what you want. After that, you can reassemble the socket. Just as I said, it's pretty straightforward which part goes where, and in case you're not sure, take a look at that photo that you just made. Now unfortunately that part that I'm holding in my hand right now, that should be something like a spring that touches the bottom of the light bulb, and in my case it's missing the spring part. It broke off. So yeah, my socket is pretty much fucked. So let me finish with the assembly part, and after that I will show you what to do in case your contacts on your sockets or socket is broken. So here, after you found the correct position, you will only need to push it in, and after the clips got in place it will stay together. So on to the broken contact part. I soldered a piece of red copper wire to one of the contacts that were broken, and That kinda solved my problem. On the other hand, if you don't want to do this, you can buy another socket for pretty cheap off eBay or wherever. Now let's test this socket with a light bulb. I used a battery as my 12 volt supply. One of the wires that I put on is actually a piece of solder, basically as a fuse, and the other wire is through the multimeter that's measuring the current going through my circuit. So it's 1.8 amps. That is actually pretty good for a 21 watt bulb. Now let's calculate the actual current needed for this bulb by dividing 21 watts to 12 volts. That's actually 1.75 amps, close enough. So this means our socket and lights are good, and we can put it back into the car. So putting it back onto the car is pretty much the reverse of taking it off. That's why I'm not even going to show that. But on the other hand, thank you very much for watching. If you want to check out my other videos on light bulbs or other DIY fixes about the Ford Focus Mark 1, you can find them on my channel. I also have one on the screen right now. And as always, have a nice day, and for a free, out.